This is Talking with Burritos, the podcast that's giving you something to talk about when you find that you need a little spark to your bang. I am Jerry JJ Wayne Graham, and on this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about, finally, Black Panther. You see, I was sitting around the other day looking at the DVD and said, hey, why don't I just watch this? I didn't do an episode on it a long time ago like I wanted to, but I was watching it and thought, wow, this is kind of cool. And I remembered back to a time, to an article I read or something. Yeah, an article I read about the supposed idea that Daniel A., we'll just call him that because I cannot say his last name, the guy from Get Out, that he should be James Bond. And I was thinking, okay, and then in this environment where, everyone wants to recreate everything and remake everything else, I thought, oh, hell no, please don't. Because, James Bond is James Bond. Do we need a black James Bond? Yeah, it would be cool, but only if it were Idris Elba. And they already debunked that idea. So many people shitted on that idea of smooth old Idris Elba being the next James Bond. And, the guy has the charisma to do it, and he has the action chops. He can totally do it. And also the British accent. Come on, people. He can do it. However, they were thinking about this other guy from Get Out. I don't know why they got this. I think because he is British, but that doesn't make for a good James Bond. So I was thinking, if we did have a black James Bond other than Idris Elba, who would it be? And so I thought about it, and I said, okay, well, and then I watched Black Panther, and that's it. Black Panther is our James Bond. We don't necessarily have to recreate or remake a James Bond movie with a black character. I'm tired of these remakes, and I'm tired of studios attempting to reinsert old titles into the zeitgeist of today's culture appropriation. Female Ghostbusters, cool. Females Ocean's 11, Ocean's 8. Okay. All right, but the thing is, these titles aren't original. You're just taking the old and then putting someone into the old again and not necessarily creating a whole different scheme. Normally when they do these episodes, or just like Ghostbusters or even Oceans, they're just taking the same formula and just reinserting different people. And if you're going to recreate something, how about you just recreate it? You can use the name to sell tickets, the title, the pre-existing knowledge of this thing that we watched before that we enjoyed. But then you have to flip it on its head. Turn it upside down. Make it so that we want to see this thing, to see the movie. A lot of people, people did come out to Oceans. What did it make? Like 46, 50 million, something like that. It made some money. It topped the box office. That's fine. But was it a good movie? No, I don't think so. But was it a good Soderbergh remake? Yes. But I'm not talking about that right now. The Black Panther as our black James Bond, and about kings. The kings in general, kings of old. What it takes to be a king, and not the kings of Leon. But this is Talking with Burritos. Thank you guys for listening. Let's start this show. Black Panther is our black James Bond. Well, if you saw the movie, then you know why. Because the guy is just smooth. He is. You see this robe that he rode, that he goes into his chambers with, his conference chamber with his constituents, with the other leaders within Wakanda. You see this guy in this smooth old robe, this smooth black purple robe. He is just like debonair looking. So the man has style, and that's what James Bond always had. With those suits, those tuxedos, nice bow tie, the man always has style. Period. So if you look at, just take Black Panther, just that one scene, you know this man has style. When they went into, was it Japan or Korea? This man has style. T'Challa has style. And he puts that on display like, okay, I am wealthy, I am a king, and I'm going to look that way. When he comes into a room, eyes are going to be on this cat. Gadgets. Okay, well, Siri, his sister, Siri, his sister is the M of this story. And they have cool gadgets from his suit to his car to his car, the one that she made for him, to the ships in Wakanda. He has access to all of these things, and all he has to do is ask. His gadgets are just awesome. You got the suit with the claws that look way too big for his hands, but that's how it's supposed to be. I really don't know how this man walks, because if you look at like a still photo of him, his arms seem a little bit weird. This kind of looks like Slender Man, because his forearms are longer just due to his claws, and so it looks like you wouldn't be able to move around in that suit. But that's just for me. Even when he does the little Wakanda thing, he puts it around his chest, and you see his long claws, it just looks abnormal. So I don't really see how he would actually move around like that. However, they got the tech solid in Wakanda, with Shuri as playing as an M type character, and they got the smooth ride, not with the Infinity, I think it was Infinity commercial type ride, but it does have a smooth ride. No Aston Martin. He has a car that can be controlled by a virtual assistant, and that's actually pretty cool. You have the gadgets, and so I guess that's part of tech, which I already put down. Say tech as in he has a sort of advantage. If you have silver bullets for Van Helsing, James Bond has a tiny gun. I don't know. In the recent James Bond, he has like better weapons, and he has M16s and Uzis, and he shoots everything. He just tries to kill whatever is in his sight, that whoever gets in his way that he has to kill. But he is no Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible. Let's go with tech and vibranium, and just this added attribute to his weapons to make them more superior than everyone else's. And that goes into the other thing, which is his suit, his creation, the creation of the suit. That's number one on the tech list, because this man can basically take down a damn truck. He can absorb hits and then use that kinetic energy to hurt someone else. You have the tech down, and vibraniums is at the core of that. And also just the knowledge of Wakanda and what they create, and Shuri and the creators within that country. So they have those things put down. So I guess number one and number two. So I guess we only have two things. We're going to have the tech, which is the vibranium, and, the gadgets that his younger sister creates, which includes the suit. But he also just has a conscience. He's not as amoral as a James Bond. This man, he has a love for one woman. He's a king. He's distinguished. He's not going to go sleeping around with anyone, because you can't do that. You can't be knocking up people within Wakanda and having all kinds of little babies. He's not an Egyptian prince. No. So he's cool, but he knows that he can have anybody. James Bond knows all he has to do is just talk to a woman, and them panties be off. They just drop to the ground for some odd reason. You watch all the movies, the man's just smooth like that. Even the villains fall for a James Bond. They might double cross him, but they still fall for him, knowing damn well what he's doing. James Bond walks into a room, and he points out a gal. It's like, you don't think that when he comes over to talk to you that he just shoot the shit with you. No, James Bond wants a little bit of hanky-panky. It's only until the recent version of James Bond where you figure that, what is it? Casino Royale? And then after that, I forgot what the other one was. Yeah, Casino Royale. And then the other one where he actually has a love interest, but they kind of hint on it, but they don't focus on it, which was perfect for that series. A lot of people like to take it a little different. Let's give this character dimension. So he needs something to live for. And he found something to live for. And later on in those episodes, in those movies, after the death of someone else close to him, you see that this man actually does have heart, and he can suffer. But as far as we see that, as far as T'Challa is concerned, as our Black James Bond, he doesn't necessarily need that to use his suaveness on every other woman, but yet he could. So I can see him out in the field, like if he's doing an investigation or something, he comes up and just using his gentleman status to sway a person to give up information. But I don't think he would actually cross that line, because I forgot the lady's name. She would totally just, dismiss him. He's in love. Give it to him. She goes on missions. You don't think she uses her female prowess to get people to tell her things, information about captured girls and child soldiers? No. So you have to be able to use your suaveness, use what you have. And if you have the ability to talk a person into submitting or giving you information, then you got to use it. That's what makes, him a James Bond. I guess there might be other things, but I think those are 3 characteristics that really make him a James Bond that we can agree with. That, hey, this is our black James Bond. So that's our traits that make the Black Panther, T'Challa, our James Bond. Or James Bondian. I don't know what that means. And so now let's go to the thread and let's just talk about the movie. Just upon rewatching, and I watched it like 3 times already, so I've seen these things, I've had these thoughts, and they've been said over and over again, like Killmonger being the greatest evil superhero within, or greatest villain within the Marvel universe. I wouldn't say he was the greatest, but I say it was the more interesting, because now Thanos comes around and he becomes like one of the greatest like Marvel villain in the movie cinematic history. Just because, and I said this before in a previous episode, if you listen to an Infinity War episode, or the Thanos episode, it's based on that, is that this character has something that we can get behind, that we understand. And again, this movie was placed within the zeitgeist of the culture that we know of today, the suffering of black people in urban areas. So it was very easy to get behind this character. But what made it more impressive is that people wanted to hate him. You want to hate this one because he was just so evil and just so passionate about his wanting to do harm to Black Panther or the King of T'Challa or just the Wakandans. He wanted to just do harm because he just didn't care. And the thing is, you take Michael B. Jordan, this character who has been through a lot of different iterations of likable characters, but always someone who was, I wouldn't say down and out, but he never really took roles where he was above someone else, that he was superior to other people. If you want to count Fantastic Four being the sister of someone whose father is a scientist, possibly, because that gives him some leeway there and maybe a little bit of some riches, and a better ranking in the societal chain. However, Michael B. Jordan just being that character, even like Rocky, you want to root for him. You want to root for him. And in a way, you want to root for this character, Killmonger. However, you can't be without feeling like a piece of shit because you like Black Panther and you're all for the protagonist and his way. But actually, what are you rooting for when you root for that character? When you're rooting for T'Challa and all them, you're just rooting for him because he is the main lead in the story. The movie is called Black Panther, but so to label it Killmonger is be like, what? Nobody wants to see that, Killmonger. But so they have to label it Black Panther, and that's the person you root for. So psychologically, you're thinking, I have to hate this person, but yet I sympathize with him, and I kind of like him because it's Michael B. Jordan. But yet he made us hate him so well. And through his actions, that's when you come to realize that, hey, okay, well, I'm not supposed to like him because he's a bit of a douchebag. But yet, I can understand his plight. I can understand his suffering, what he's going through, and why he feels the way he does. It's just one of those things where we all know, we all see it. And that's very uncommon with a lot of villains. A lot of villains, they make out that you just want to hate them, and they want you to need to hate this person straight off the bat rather than sympathize with them. But the best villain is the one that you can sympathize with. This is kind of a game changer in a way. Whereas now, if you can make compelling stories about villains that are introduced in these comic book movies, then that opens up an entire different avenue of storytelling, where a path of storytelling where you can actually tell these stories and have the protagonist give added value to the antagonist, their values and strength and morals and or immortality. It's just one of those things that is psychologically can be cool, but is it necessarily a game changer? I think it's a game changer because it enables like these studios, if they do it right, to tell better stories. This not just like, let's open up the sky, have some demons or aliens, the go-to evil of most of these stories, something from outer space, come down and destroy all of our world or attempt to destroy our world. You can add better characters that we can relate to. Think about, like I said in the Thanos episode, Sandman. You think just about the people in Ant-Man. Ant-Man was just trying to do his thing, and he just want Ant-Man. I forgot who the villain was in Ant-Man, but yet it wasn't like a superhero hero person coming out to actually destroy him or destroy the world. So it enables you to do better things with the storylines, in my opinion. And it can be beneficial in the long run if done correctly. A lot of things that I like to talk about, I was thinking about too with the Black Panther. I was thinking about his comparison to Tony Stark in a way. Whereas, in Tony Stark in the first movie, after this first movie, he realizes that his creations are being smuggled and sold off to use in wars abroad, like in wars abroad, that they were being used to kill other people. And he comes to this realization at the end that he must take responsibility for those things that are happening, for the things that he creates and are putting out there into the world, and too much of the chagrin of Jeff Bridges, who did not want that. He just wanted to be able to take the profits selling to warlords and a lot of these dictatorial countries. He had to come to that realization. Okay, I don't want my tech to go into other people's hands. And T'Challa, who just never released that, or the Wakandans, they never released their technology onto the world or never made access to it. Because why? Because they knew what man would do with it. And that's the thing. Humankind can't have good things, because whenever we have something good, something that's powerful, something that could benefit us, someone usually finds a way to make it evil. You have the internet, period, which is a good thing. Hell, you have Facebook nowadays, where people have basically villainized this social media construct. This thing was supposed to be just out there for us to be able to talk to one another and family members and show goofy pictures of our goofy kids. But now it's just become this whole media hoopla about everything else, about nothing like that. So it's got a few far in between. So it kind of sucks that way. But the way of the Wakandas is like, let's keep this all to ourselves. Who else would benefit from it? What good could we do if we shared it with other nations, with other countries? And therein becomes the questioning or the understanding of why Killmonger was doing the things he was doing, and why he wanted that access to that tech, why he wanted to reign over Wakanda. He just felt slighted, felt like the people weren't doing anything for him. And so what does he want to do? He'll do it for himself if he can get access to it and become the baddest mofo around. It's just one of those things that you necessarily have to deal with creation. And when you create something that's powerful, like the nuclear bomb, but then you can't get mad at other people who create it because they want that same technology, because they feel threatened in a way that you will create this thing that would destroy them. And then if they did anything wrong to you, then you could destroy them at a moment's notice. And a lot of people don't like that. Yeah, a lot of countries don't like that. They don't want to feel subordinate to another power, and that's why you got all this crap going around. So you think about how those two storylines are congruent with human history, the history of the tech that we create. And nowadays, even now, it's like, okay, I was watching this thing about reading this podcast, listening to this TED talk about artificial intelligence, and then it's like, okay, AG, but now they have this thing, artificial general intelligence, okay, and no AI, and then artificial general intelligence, and that's basically us creating robots to do the things that humans can do. And if you don't think in the future that could come back at us, then you might be smart, because it might not happen in your lifetime, but it could happen within the next 20 to 40 years, that you'll see a lot of this automation come into your lives and into our lives and affect it in a greater way. If you don't think someone else is going to try to take that and try to make a superhuman robot full of destruction, Terminator 2, you might be a little bit naive in that sense too. But that's neither here or there, right? What we're talking about today. And so now I want to go to my scoop du jour for this episode. It's going to be what makes a king a king. So you think about T'Challa and how, let's say, secretive his nation is. They don't want to involve other people within their affairs. They don't want to really go out. And if they do it in secret. You don't want to really start anything. But T'Challa as king with vibranium, think about if he was more of a evil type person, or more of let's say a king like a what you call this, Genghis Khan or an Alexander, where you wants to use his tech. Well, basically Killmonger. He wants to use his tech to be able to conquer lands, to make people to conquer lands and just prove how powerful their nation is. I wrote down some factors. What could make a king a king? Alexander, he's considered by history to be the greatest king to have ever ruled. But then you have Genghis Khan, who conquered 4 times as many territories as Alexander's. So why wouldn't he be considered the most successful king to have ever ruled? And I think it has to go with influence. Genghis Khan did conquer many lands, and a lot of times he brought I don't think he brought knowledge to those people. He conquered the lands, he allowed them to live, and then they were living underneath his rule. However, with Alexander, he conquered a lot, but then he wanted to appropriate a lot of Greek knowledge, a lot of knowledge onto those people. Yes, they maybe did some horrible things as well, capturing people, capturing the men to work in the armies or to work as slaves, the women as well. So there was a lot of other things that just come with war. However, he did try to impart knowledge onto a lot of these cultures, and so that spread the knowledge of the Greeks, their thought processes, their knowledge, their history, that enabled those stories and those creations or findings to spread to other countries. I would say it was spread to other people, the other countries, and their sciences and their studies and their knowledge of the universe. And so, and a lot of this came from who Alexander was taught by. He was taught by the great Aristotle. So he had a lot of philosophical knowledge as well as just knowledge about the world and math and other things that he was able to spread to other countries. And yes, he was a vicious leader, but he did have the knowledge to know, the understanding that you can't empower a people. You can enslave a people, yes, but knowledge will empower them. And if they do it underneath your rule and you make life better for them, then you will be not deemed in their eyes as someone who is evil or unjust, but someone who cares. You earn their trust. You can stave off such things as rebellions, protests, assassinations. You could do all of that. T'Challa, I think his way was playing it safe, but yet he wasn't a ruler of sorts like an Alexander or a Genghis Khan. Let's conquer lands. That just wasn't his way. That wasn't the way of his people. They were more considerate. But towards the end of this movie, if you saw it, he thought otherwise. And he did question it throughout the movie too. If you ask him, if you listened closely to some of the dialogue, he would talk about what is all this tech all this stuff that we have if we don't share it with others to maybe help improve the lives of others. And that's a very powerful statement, a very powerful notion or an idea for everyone to get behind or to follow. Is it necessarily that Alexander was a great king? Your legacy defines who you are. And he has a great legacy. And a lot of that comes from his knowledge and way of doing things and what he accomplished in such a small amount of time. Genghis Khan had more time. He ruled longer and he conquered a lot. He did so in a very vicious and inhumane way. You have to look at war as being just that back in those times. It was just inhumane. It was terrible. It is now, even today. It's just what war is. I wouldn't say he was necessarily bloodthirsty, but was Genghis fame worthy? No. If you think about fame, you think about what comes along with fame. It's all about the perception of it all, the perception. And so that's what Alexander was able to do. He really perceives himself and put himself out there and gave the people a vision of this otherworldly, this almost godly-like ruler. The extravagances he put on display. Well, was he great? But yet, he, just like any other young man at that time who would rule, he had his devices. And he had his problems, and that's why he died early. But his legacy still lives on today as one that many people talk about as being something of influence. Yeah, let's think about someone who didn't have an influence, who was king, who was considered maybe one of the worst kings out there. He has a legacy, all right. Worst kings out there would be King Titus of Rome. He reigned only 2 years, but what did he do? He created something that could maintain the test of time. Well, kinda. It was the Colosseum. He put forth, during his reign, the Colosseum was built. And this thing remains a tourist attraction today, which is totally horrible. I love Rome. I want to go back for my 20th anniversary. But if you've ever been there and you see all these damn tourists and everyone around you, it's kind of like, ruins the majestic ambiance of it all, the majestic nature of it all. When I went, I was able to maybe, if you close your eyes and then you open them real quick and be able to picture it without all of the tourists around you and just use your imagination at all the people walking around in their tunics and garbs and people selling things on the street back during that time, something AD. So, or just during that reign, you see this thing and people rushing to the Colosseum to watch these battles, these very vicious battles, gladiator battles. I don't know, it's just something very just cool about that. To say it's something excellent. It's very excellent, very awesome about it. But yet you have this king who only ruled 2 years. He was a horrible king, but he commissioned this thing to be built, and it was built, and now it still stands to today. So he has a legacy, all right. He has a legacy of being the most horrible freaking king to ever rule Rome, but also he has the legacy of contributing this monument that has stood the test of time so that everyone could come to read about, learn about, and then learn about this king. So he has a legacy. Might not be good, but he still has a legacy. So just to be a king, I guess you just have to, it's all about legacy, in my opinion, as king or as queen. Think about Queen Elizabeth right now. She has a legacy. The woman has a legacy. She done but I couldn't tell you what she's done. But yet, if you know about Queen Elizabeth, if you know about Queen Elizabeth, you know that she's reigned for, it has to be like 70 plus years. Longest reigning queen ever, I would believe. So, but I still don't know what that royal family does. I'm not even going to go into that, but it's all about legacy, I believe, and what you can contribute, the impact that you can have on other people's lives, your subjects' lives. I think that's what makes a good king a good king. It's not how much land you conquer. It's about what you can do to the people, how they help to prolong your time in history. because if they forget about you, then you're nothing to them. But if they can go back and then study you and learn about what you've done or what you accomplished, that could affect them today and now in today's society, then that's a positive. That's legacy. That's greatness. That's what it means to be a king or a queen. I read this article about Wesley Snipes. If you guys don't know about this, a long time ago, right after Blade, they had wanted to make a Black Panther movie starring Wesley Snipes. Would it have been great with Wesley Snipes? Yes. The man had a throne in his room, so you have to think like, okay, he'll be badass as T'Challa. Maybe not as young. This storyline probably wouldn't have been as congruent, but I kind of like how they went now with the king dying and then young T'Challa coming to reign, because that really enables him to show how much he's learned and to put that knowledge into play, just as he did like in the first movie. With this one, you had Marvel. If you know anything about Marvel, back in like the 1990s, Marvel was just basically, they were going under. And that's why they had to sell off a lot of their properties. That's why you see Fantastic Four you have Iron Man over at Disney. You have Spider-Man over at Sony. All these different characters went to other people because they were selling off their characters to try to keep the company afloat. And Black Panther was one of them, which sold to, I think, Fox, I believe, but I'm not sure. And the same framework was in play. They wanted to have on display Black Panther, the nation of Wakanda, and his many different gadgets and creations and things of that nature. Typically, it would have been like another cool sci-fi movie, a comic book movie. That the best that they could do back then. And a lot of it with production was like they wanted to do all the stuff that they did with this Black Panther, but they just couldn't because the technology wasn't there. I just wanted you to think about, would it be awesome with Wesley Snipes as Black Panther? Well, see, I was thinking like, what if Wesley Snipes was his father? But then we can't do that because his father died. So somehow, some way, within the next few years, they have to really put Wesley Snipes in that role, in some type of role within the Wakandan universe. Maybe he'd be a cool villain of some sort because he still has martial arts training and all this stuff. The man's badass back in the day. Go watch the Blade series 1 and 2. Skip 3, please. I don't know if it would have been as culturally relevant. You don't know what story they would have come up with, but the thing I know is about that saga, that production, is that they just could not get it off the ground because it would have taken a lot of money and the tech just wasn't there. Here's another thing that really bothers me. And don't get me, no matter how you splice it, am I going completely mad? A movie with black people isn't a black movie. In all my years of working in the movie industry of sorts, that's very, using that term lightly, movie industry. We get a lot of people who come up who ask for, that black movie. And for some reason, that really pisses me off, and I put the focus on the black movie. These movies aren't movies with a true genre distinction. You have action movie. It's a drama. It's a comedy. It's not a black movie. These are usually movies filmed in America by and produced by Americans. So to say like, this is a black movie really freaking annoys me. Whenever I hear that, hey, can I get that one black movie? Like, please don't say that. And I'm not saying those just any Caucasian people or any Asian people. No, even black people say it. Let me get that black movie, bruh. Like, it's not a black movie, man. It's a movie. We just say the title. That's all I'm saying. That really freaking annoys me. And there are some instances where this works. Like, if you have a Bollywood movie, and somebody asks for, let me get that, I would like that Indian movie. I would know what that is. Because those are culturally specific. They come out of India, a lot of these films. They're not filmed in the States. You have a movie like, what is it? Another one. Like China. You have a movie come from China, a Chinese import. And if someone say, can I get that movie, that Chinese movie or that Asian, I don't know what they would say. But a lot of people would say if it's a Chinese film, it's a Chinese film. You have your Japanese films, you have your Japanese films. They do have where they say this is a Japanese film, this is a Korean film, this is a film from Thailand. Okay, I can understand that too. It really points to something that I don't know and that I know was imported from somewhere else and not filmed here. But and they're usually presented in the languages where they're derived. So, but if you come in and say, let me get that one black movie, the Tyler Perry movie. A Tyler Perry movie isn't a black movie. It's a movie by a black director filmed in the United States. So I wouldn't say it's actually a black movie. So please stop saying that black movie. I really don't like it. It really annoys me. That black horror movie. No, Get Out wasn't a black horror movie. It was just a horror movie, people. It had black people in it, but wasn't a black horror movie. It doesn't say on the title description, black horror film. No, it just says horror film. It wasn't a black movie category in the Oscars. No, it was just a film. So when you come up to somebody and you go into a box office or you're looking for a film, you call them up on the telephone, you don't say, yeah, let me get that one movie. Hey, that one black movie. No, man, use the Google. Google it and just say, oh, yeah, that movie by Tyler Perry. Or, hey, that one movie with Traffic. With that one girl in it that I totally forgot her name. But I don't know. That's just one of my pet peeves. So that's no matter how you splice it. Just don't. No matter how you splice it, it's not a black movie. It's just a film. Well, okay. So that wraps up this episode of Talking with Burritos. I just wanted to really record this one because it was on my mind. And I did want to talk about Black Panther. And I haven't done it. As you can see, because you haven't seen anything since I talked about Blade Runner 2049. This caps off this episode. But I want to leave you with my weekly gratitude. It's going to be always bet on black, but don't forget to pay your taxes. Also, flavor text of the week. Don't sneak up on me like that, colonizer. I am Jerry JJ Wayne Graham, and that's a wrap, but not a burrito.